y'all doing? This is Mongo Slade, and today we're going to talk about big guys getting over and why it's so difficult. So this springs up from a conversation Shane Helms had with Talking Sass on VOC Nation. I'm going to read a piece of a transcript from Wrestling Inc., and then we're going to discuss the topic. So here is what he said. There's definitely been a shift, almost an overcorrection, because I think we've alienated some of the bigger guys in the audience. Wrestling used to be a lot of tough guys that liked wrestling because they understood how tough it was. I think we've lost some of those. For so many years, this was a big man's business and no small guys were going to be successful. A lot of that was political. There's been a correction for that, but now it's almost an overcorrection because now there's very few big guys that are given real big opportunities. Because if they go out there and be a big guy, they're looked down upon if they don't bump silly for every teeny tiny guy that comes around. Hopefully one day we'll find a nice little balance where everybody is equally represented. That has always been a battle in pro wrestling. So he also talked about believability and specifically himself because the Hurricane actually used to choke slam people bigger than him. So he talks about the creation of the choke slam, and then he basically says that you can't sell for everybody the same way, and that when a smaller guy really gets over, that's when you kind of sell for him. And he used the example of Rey Mysterio. So this is true. I do believe that there is a limitation on a lot of the big guys really getting opportunities, in a lot of these wrestling promotions. But there's a lot more to it. So we're going to discuss that, and we're also going to discuss some of the smaller little aspects of it. For instance, pairing big guys and little guys together. And then also the Cruiserweight Division, which is, oddly enough, despite the fact that this is true, the Cruiserweight Division is still a ghetto of smaller guys. But when I think about this, I think a lot about when people say Goldberg, right? People say, well, you don't really allow guys to get over the way Goldberg did. It's not fair because these guys, Goldberg is so over because he was able to just steamroll people. And, it was like, yeah, that's kind of how he got over. Nowadays, they don't let people steamroll anybody anymore. AEW doesn't have squash matches at all. The only time they did have anything close to a squash match is because Cody had to go do a TV show. That was the only thing they did. Like, they usually have these big guys wrestling smaller guys, either doing the job or they wrestle them for an absurd amount of time. And NXT is the same thing. NXT has done an irreparable damage to a lot of the big dudes. Now, as much as I love Finn Balor and Adam Cole, and I even like Johnny Gargano, I love Tommaso Ciampa, a lot of those guys are small. When you have bigger guys on the roster, like a Keith Lee or a Damian Priest, they should be eating these guys alive. Why in the world are they working 15, 20-minute back and forth matches, or even sometimes selling most of the match for these smaller guys? And then they get absurd with it, where you have things like Keith Lee taking a Panama Sunrise for Adam Cole. Like, why would he do that? I don't get it. I mean, it's bad enough to have these guys wanting to do moonsaults and topes and helos over the top rope. That's too much. These big guys used to get over by crushing people. Look at Sid, right? I always use Sid. I always use Brock because these guys got over doing, like, Undertaker didn't get over doing 25-minute matches with Owen Hart. It just didn't happen. Could he have had a 25-minute match with Owen Hart and rocked? Yeah, he could have. But then when he did shit for his character, so when he did wrestle somebody like Owen Hart, he just ate him, beat him 5 to 6 minutes. Didn't kill Owen. Because Owen was good enough to get himself back over. And then that's the thing that we need to be discussing here is that a guy like Adam Cole or a guy like Finn Balor, because he's talented, he can always bounce back. A big dude, you can only do that so many times before people start looking at him weird. But he is absolutely correct. Shane Helms is absolutely correct. Braun Strowman doesn't do any moonsaults. He doesn't do any flying twisty joints. He doesn't do none of that stuff. And a lot of people, especially dweebs on the internet, they hate him. Because I'm not finished with you. He's a monster from a movie. He throws people around. He takes other big guys and he throws them around. He got over really by mashing Roman Reigns, who is not a small man. Roman's what, 6'4"? And, maybe Strowman's 6'8". So you talking about these guys just basically throwing smaller guys around. And that's how he got over. But they always cut everybody else off at the legs. They won't let them do that. And I know Braun Strowman is maybe a special case because he skipped NXT completely. But then again, some of these other guys should have as well. Like I love Keith Lee. I think his run in NXT was really good for the brand, but I don't think it really did him any favors because it became Keith Lee work rate guy, not Keith Lee monster who can wreck Adam Cole in 4 minutes. He ended up having a 20-minute match where he sold most of the time. Same thing with Damian Priest. He would have these 15-minute matches with Johnny Gargano, some of which he actually lost, and he was selling most of the time. Why? He should be killing these people. Man, I know these aren't the guys that Shane Helms were talking about, because he kind of made the example that you can't just go in there and kill Rey Mysterio. You can't just go in there and kill Shawn Michaels or Owen Hart or somebody like that. If there's a especially skilled smaller guy, he's going to get his shit in. And I understand that and I can appreciate that. But we still need to set the standard that big guys are destroyers and they will go out there and wreck people. And occasionally they need to do so. So I said to myself, like, look at, people like Big Show, Kane, Mark Henry, these guys who are big dudes. But they were always selling for smaller guys. Kane, Big Show, come on, man. There would be sometimes Big Show just be going in there just selling for anybody, Like, this guy's a legitimate giant, and I get it that he's boring if all he does is woo and smash people across the chest. And yes, I hate the Big Show. I really do. But you got to do the right thing. And the right thing is to get the big guy over. Otherwise, you just do silly shit. And I know the internet loves doing silly shit. For instance, case in point, Kidman versus Hulk Hogan, right? Like, this is like some shit where people think like, oh, well, everything is equal. Kidman is a better worker than Hogan. And I said, did you watch that match? Did you even look at it? Did you see how Kidman looked like a small boy standing in front of Hulk Hogan? He looked like a light bulb standing next to the moon, or the sun rather, because the moon doesn't glow. He's standing next to like a light bulb standing next to the sun. Hogan is not only a physical bigger guy, he's a huge fucking star. He's larger than life, and Kidman was Kidman. It made no sense to even have those two in the same ring. And you know what? And that's why I say, like, I'm cool with the smaller guys. Sometimes you have smaller guys who are technical, but they're believable. Your Benoits, your Guerreros, your Angles. To some degree, Finn Balor and Adam Cole. Shawn Michaels. You have some of those guys. Rey Mysterio, who is a little smaller than small, but, you get my drift. There are certain smaller guys who can, put their matches together where they look legit. You can use those guys to get the smaller weight divisions into the main event. What you shouldn't be doing is Keith Lee versus Adam Cole. The weight difference is too big. It doesn't justify a 20-minute match. It doesn't justify a 30-minute match where one guy is doing Canadian destroyers on another guy. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to do that. And yet people still do it anyway. The independence is full of this shit. It's the same thing with women. And I mean that in two different ways. One, I mean the same thing with women when Dakota Kai is wrestling Rhea Ripley, and Rhea Ripley is so much bigger than Dakota Kai, and yet she's doing all this selling for Dakota Kai. Also, I mean the same thing when you have small women wrestling men. It's the same thing. You killing yes, it does affect the audience. A lot of people begin to stop taking this stuff seriously, and that prevents people from getting over. Like, what people love about Brock is that Brock throws around big people. Like, Brock Lesnar will go in there and toss The Undertaker around. Easily. No problem. Big Show, no problem. Strowman, no problem. Anybody. Brock would just throw him. No problem. That's the same thing with Scott Steiner. Like, that's what got the Steiner brothers over. Is their ability to throw around anybody. That's what got around the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors. They had the ability to throw around anybody. Andre the Giant. When you look at the big dudes, the strong guys that people really was buying into, they just had the ability to just wreck dudes who are even their own size, especially guys smaller, but even people their own size, or even sometimes even people bigger. When you have trouble beating guys that are small, it's like that's an issue. So when people are like, I can't believe They told Finn Balor to go in there and job to Brock in 7 minutes, or they had Kofi get beaten in 3 seconds, 30 seconds, or they had Ricochet get beaten in 10 seconds. I'm like, what the fuck else is it supposed to be? What else is it supposed to be? How else is that supposed to go? It's supposed to go the way that it did. Why would Brock need 20 minutes to beat Kofi Kingston? As much as I love Kofi Kingston, why would he need 20 minutes to beat Kofi Kingston? It doesn't make any sense. Why would they have a back and forth match? It does. No. You have to get somebody got to get over in this situation. And the other person who's winning has to go over. Brock has to go over dominant, usually. You know? And that's really what's hindered people like Keith Lee and Damian Priest. Is that they're not allowed to get over dominantly on people. Braun Strowman was able to get over dominantly on people. Goldberg was able to get over dominantly on people. This is what happens when you put people over dominantly. They get fucking over. They become stars. And despite the fact that we have this explosion of smaller guys like Finn Balor, Adam Cole, Daniel Bryan, etc., the Cruiserweight division is still a fucking ghetto. Because it's weird that sometimes you have the Cruiserweight champion will be bigger than the world champion. Like, I think Santos Escobar is about bigger than Finn Balor is at this point. Now, you have to justify why Santos Escobar isn't challenging Finn Balor. They're the same fucking size. You don't have that problem when it's like Brock and Strowman. Okay, they're in the same weight class. Thereabouts, which would it'd still be a catchweight match, but thereabouts. They're both super heavyweights, right? But how do you justify Adam Cole, who is 5'8" or 5'9" or whatever, 200 pounds barely, not being in the Cruiserweight division? But there is a Cruiserweight division. How do you justify that? How do you rationalize that? How do you have Adam Cole in the main events, but the Cruiserweight champion can't be in the main event? What's the difference? We're looking at their size. What's the difference? So you have to look at it either one way. If these smaller guys, right, can justify being in the main event, then they could be in the main event as Cruiserweight champion, right? What difference would it have made if Adam Cole was in the main event of a show as the Cruiserweight champion? He's still Adam Cole. I mean, he can't be a star and be the Cruiserweight champion too. And that's one of the problems that I've been kind of tackling here. Because I know how people view the Cruiserweight divisions. People view the Cruiserweight division as smaller guys, athletic guys, sometimes technical guys, but they're the opening act. They're the second match, the third match. They're not main event guys. Right? But they're the same size as the main event guys. So you gotta justify, that division's and that's why I kind of want to be it's just sad, Like, I want to be honest and just say it really wouldn't make any sense. The WWE especially should just abolish the Cruiserweight division if that's how it's going to be. If it's going to be the NXT title is open weight, which it should be, and the Cruiserweight title you have to be under 205 pounds. Okay, fair enough. But why isn't the Cruiserweight champion trying to be the NXT champion too? Why isn't he trying to be the world champion too? If he weighs more, or at least the same as the top title, he should be in contention for the top title and not be separated and segregated and pushed into the addict. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel. I thank you guys for your time and energy. Spread the good word of 3 Count Commentaries by hitting that hashtag and spreading it all over the place. Also, if you want to help me send me some money, I would appreciate that too. I thank you guys for listening, and I'll talk to you guys later.